Welcome to another episode of Ask Dubey. As always, this show is a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use the code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. Welcome to another episode. We can't get started without talking about Connor McDavid. I know you guys are probably tired of it, but I'm sorry. When you have 46 points in 20 games, you just hit 82 for the season, guaranteeing yourself a point per game, which in Connor McDavid's world is absolutely nothing because he operates on 2+ points a game at this time. It's been absolutely incredible to watch. He's put the Oilers on his back, which he usually does, but every single year you think you've seen it. You think you've seen everything from him, and he somehow just does something different, does something even more special. And on top of that, you got Leon Draisaitl doing his thing, also putting up outrageous numbers. I believe he's only had 3 games that he hasn't scored a point in that span that Connor McDavid has been going. And Leon's numbers on any other team on the planet would be historical and talked about and all this. And somehow he's playing on a team with a guy that has one-upped him and is getting all the credit. So big shout out to both of those guys doing their thing. Usually when the Oilers are winning, that's the case, and they are. So super fun to watch, and would love to see this continue on. So from that, let's get to the questions. Okay, first question from Ryder FM. What was your favorite save you ever made? Could be because of a big moment in the game, or was it because it was just deadly? All right, I'm going to give you a few here. Most of them are just deadly. One of them was big moment in the game. We'll start with Edmonton. Got to pick a couple from the Oilers. So the first one I can think of against Calgary Flames, I believe it was Olli Jokinen on the back door. It was the first period. We were playing at home against Calgary, and unfortunately I didn't end up playing a good game. But I had a lot of friends and family in town, grew up playing against Calgary. Those were always big games against the Flames for me. And I think it was my first year, maybe my second year. So I remember being nervous for the game, and I was a little jumpy, a little on my toes. Puck came to the side of the net, and kind of overplayed and went down and ended up going cross crease. And I was kind of dead to rights over on the right side of my net, and I had no option but to just put a foot down and dive, and I dove straight across the goal line and grabbed it with my glove, and overhead shot, just barely kept it out of the goal line. And it was pretty exciting, and obviously being at home as well. I think everybody thought they scored, and then they started getting excited because I stopped it. So that's one I can remember. Another one from Edmonton. This was kind of more of the moment in the game because it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't that crazy of a save, but we played our last game of my first year. It was the second last game of the season. We were playing in LA. This was their season. We struggled a little bit, but I had been playing a little better, and this was obviously a contract year. I was competing with Jeff Delorier, for who was essentially going to be Habby Boulin's backup the next year, and there were 2 games left. We'd been rotating, so I had LA the second last game, and JD had Anaheim for the last game. And we were kind of in cruise control a little bit. Obviously, we're in Southern California for 2 games left. We got 60 points or 58 points or something, and needless to say, guys are thinking about the summer. So we rolled into LA, and we got outshot 55-12, I believe it was. And we won 4-3 in a shootout. So that shootout save against Ryan Smith, I believe that was a winning save. He went forehand, backhand, 5-hole, kind of a patented move of his. And I was able to stop it. And the crazy thing about that game is we were actually winning 3-0. And I think they managed to come back and score 3 in the second half of the third period. But we hung on to win and make 52 saves in a game and win a game that we probably didn't deserve to win. And then unfortunately for JD, the next night we went in and we lost 8-1, and he was in for all 8. And I know it was just 2 games, but it was kind of trending in that direction. And I always look at that. You never think that like 1 game or 2 games would have that big of an impact, but it was a pretty tough thing to ignore that was the finishing to the season and entering into the summer, where I had to negotiate a contract. I was able to get a one-way contract for 2 years, and that kind of kick-started my career. So that was obviously a huge one. Going off to Minnesota, 2 that I can think of. One was first game of the year against Nashville, 2019-2020. I made a rolling stack pad glove save on Michael Granlund from Matt Duchene early in the second period. Kind of a cool save. When I do these things, I don't really understand why. I try to think back in my head as to what transpired in my brain to make me, not just push side to side normally, but to go into a barrel roll for a glove save. And it just happens. And fun part about it, too, if you watch the replay, is Keith Urban was sitting in Nashville talking with, I believe it was Chris Cuthbert, and they were kind of having some conversation. So Keith Urban was on the call, who I'm a fan of, and when I made that save. So there's some commentary from Keith Urban when you go back and watch the highlights of that one. So that's kind of fun as well. And probably my favorite save, because my kids like it the most, and it still keeps me relevant and cool with all the kids these days, all the kids I coach and everything, was a glove save on Connor McDavid in the All-Star game. Completely windmilled him on a breakaway. And, we were laughing. He asked a little bit about it after, or was asked about it after. I was asked about it, but he'd had a couple breakaways on me in the game leading up to this already, and he tried a couple moves. And obviously, I watched Connor McDavid because everybody watches Connor McDavid, and I'd seen him score lots of goals, and I knew he's got a lot more moves than anyone else. But I'd seen, a couple of the moves that he tried, and I knew just in that season he'd had some success, kind of with a pull coming in a little bit on my blocker side angle, a little bit of just kind of drag and rip it high glove. And I thought, it's the All-Star game. I'm just going to sell out here. And he came in at that angle, and I was like, I think he's going to try this shot. And so I load up. My kids asked me how do you react to a shot that fast? And I'm like, boys, that's not a reaction. If he shot blocker, I would have been making the same motion, swinging my glove in the air. So that one was a lot of fun, though, just because it was the All-Star game, and obviously I'm the best player on planet Earth. So still keeps me cool with the kids now. When they ask if I ever played against Connor McDavid, I said, did I play against him? Wait till you see this one. So that's probably my favorite if I had to pick one. All right, next question here from Controg. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but were there nights when before a game you knew you were going to be elite or sometimes play meh? I like this question. It's a good question. It's one of these things that you kind of learn as you get older, the more you play, to not let different things affect you or make you think about it affecting the way that you're going to play. So definitely not nights before. You just... Now, there's times when I was younger where you think about it, if you didn't sleep great, if you couldn't go to sleep, couldn't fall asleep, maybe you were in late maybe it's a back-to-back. Any of these things, you could allow yourself to think about it and think about if it's going to affect you or not. But as you play more and get older, I think especially it goes a little more to game days where in the morning, it's like, did I feel good in pregame skate? I felt a little off. My energy wasn't there. I'm going to play like crap tonight. Those things do happen and they creep into your head. But as you get older and you realize and you play these games, you have to go through these situations and these scenarios where you feel awful and then you go have a good game. Or you have this night before where you don't sleep and you couldn't get to sleep and you were just thinking about the game and then you go play well. And you get through these situations where you think it's going to affect you in a bad way and you just go out and perform. And then you realize that none of this stuff really has of course, sleeping has a correlation with playing well, but you can go and play well even if you don't feel well, and going and, having the flu or something and going and playing a big game. And just the more you play and the more you have these situations that you go and play really well in situations that you didn't think you would, kind of just takes that thought process out of there, and you just realize the things that you have to concentrate on and focus on regardless of how you feel or what happens, and you'll still be able to go play a good game even if it doesn't necessarily feel that way physically or mentally. You find ways to, if you don't feel great physically, how do I get there? Or at least get partially there, or as close to there as I can, and then go and perform. And same thing mentally, if you're not there, how do I get there? What do I need to do to recognize that maybe my focus isn't quite there, or I'm a little bit tired? Is there anything extra I can do leading up to the game? before the game, morning of the game, to just try to flip a switch. And you're never going to be perfect all the time or feel your best all the time, but what can I do to get as close to that as possible and make sure that I give myself a chance to go out and play? So, yeah, that's it. And these are all things you do go through times when you're younger where you do think about this stuff, and then you do allow it to affect you and go play poorly. But you learn when you have a long career and you're counted on to play a lot of games in a year, you got to find ways to make sure you're giving a good effort every night. Okay, next question from, I'm going to try this. It's either Ty, Mike, Nev, or Temekanev. So it's either Ty, Mike, and Nev, or Russian. We'll figure that out. Hashtag Ask Dubey. Do you feel that Stuart Skinner will benefit from a fresh start in Pittsburgh? Also, I feel like there's a lot of parallels between Pittsburgh and Minnesota being big hockey cities within the U.S., but not as crazy as Canada. Do you personally feel there was any less pressure going to an American team or away from your hometown? Or is the pressure of being an NHL goalie still the same? Great question. A lot of different sides of this one. It's different. There's always pressure in being an NHL goalie, but it is different. It's different when I was in Arizona compared to Edmonton or Minnesota. The teams in the U.S., if you look at Minnesota, I do think, Minnesota is probably the most comparable market to a Canadian team. And where that comes from is kind of the knowledge of the game and the amount of people that have played the game that are watching the game. So it's a little bit of a different atmosphere where most of the people watching have played most of their lives or some sort of a decently high level and really understand the game. Watching the game, or sometimes think they understand the game, but so it's almost a different vibe in the rink where people are truly really watching a lot to do with the game. That breakouts and neutral zone, all these things that you go to Nashville and they're just there to party, and they're just there to watch goals and hits, and so it's just a different vibe. And so Minnesota is kind of as close to Canada, I think, in that situation as you can get now. It's different in that I think in Canada there's just that different vibe again where people are really, and especially if it's your hometown or close to your hometown, they really care about it, and that's not a bad thing at all. It's just a different feel of their understanding of the game and wanting to know more and talk about maybe deeper sides of it, where in the States it's like people care about it, but it's not quite as in-depth as that, where they want to talk to you about a neutral zone forecheck or something. They see you in the mall and want to ask you about the controlled breakout or, just things like that. So the pressures are there. I mean, when you're an NHL goalie, the pressure's always going to be there regardless of where you play, because you're expected to perform, and that's going to affect your next contract, and that's going to affect your life and all these things. So performing in the NHL, there's always that pressure, but as far as outside pressure, it's just different. But people still care in these cities for sure. And getting to Stuart Skinner having a fresh start in Pittsburgh, I think absolutely. It's what it was. We talked about it over and over and over again, and there kind of gets to a point where with him being in Edmonton, he wanted to be in Edmonton. He loved the team and the city and all of this stuff, but when it almost got to a point where it was a lose-lose situation, or I should say a no-win situation for him, where it didn't matter. He could piece together 3 or 4 games, and as soon as one game was off, it was right back to the same conversation, same criticism, and then it came down to almost goal by goal. You could be having a great game, and every goal that went in on him was so scrutinized and focused on, that it just creates an almost impossible situation for him, that he's battling and trying to get out of it, but at some point there just needs to be a change of scenery and a fresh start where he can go there and kind of not have that burden of with everybody having watched the little bit of inconsistency over the last few years, and just kind of have that pre-bias when they're watching him and watching what he does. I think going to anywhere and just having a fresh start where the fans are excited, and now he's started to play well there, I think it's kind of needed, and I know Stuart Skinner would tell you that he wanted to play in Edmonton. He wanted to stay in Edmonton and be an Oiler, and I certainly believe that's the case. But I also wanted to do that, and sometimes you just need a change and a fresh start somewhere. Okay, next question from Matty B10. Hashtag Ask Dubey. Now that Jarry is set to return, if you're the Oilers management/coaching staff, who do you send down to the minors? Picker or Ingram? Who should the backup goalie for the Oilers be? Great question. I don't think it's one that's going to get answered this time around. To be honest, I think that Pickard should be backing up Jarry, and a couple reasons. One, if they're going to lean on Jarry as a starting goalie, which they obviously are, there's a lot of things that go into being a backup. And I don't know if Connor Ingram brings us to the table or not, but I do know that Calvin Pickard does, and that's working hard, being loved by your teammates, all these things that are important for a backup goalie, that he's bringing something to the rink every day when he's not playing. And we know Calvin Pickard brings that, and he's battled during this tough time. Now, that can change as the season goes on. That can change come playoff time. And come playoff time, I think it's good. I think Connor Ingram's done really well, and they know they've got a guy now. And I think that's also a huge thing for them, is if Jarry does get hurt, is they're not in the same situation as they were before, where Pickard now has to play 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row, when that really wasn't, a successful option before. So I think for right now, they'll send Ingram down to also continue to play and stay sharp. I think down the road, closer to playoffs, if a situation like this happens again, or Pickard struggles a little bit, they know what they have in Connor Ingram now, and they're happy with it. And so I think that there's potential to call him back up as a third, or come playoff time, they're gonna take whoever they like the best as backup. But I do think that Connor Ingram has eased tensions a little bit for the Oilers when it comes to feeling like if Jarry goes down, then it's just on Pickard's shoulders. Now they have another option. But I think for now they'll probably send Ingram down, but that doesn't mean that'll be the case for the entire season. That's it for another episode of Ask Dubey. As always, thanks for your questions. Keep them coming. The last couple weeks have been great. Any social hashtag Ask Dubey, or put your questions in the comment section below here. Hashtag Ask Dubey, and we'll get to them. If we don't get to them, we'll get to them another week. But questions have been great, so keep them coming. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Wilhauk Beef Jerky. Only the finest tasting meat products earn the Wilhauk name. Made from 100% pure Alberta beef, Wilhauk Beef Jerky is aged, seasoned, marinated, and smoked to savory perfection. It's so good. Wilhauk Beef Jerky gladly fills orders of any size. Find their beef jerky, sausage, and other products exclusively out of their Leduc location, or you can order online. Get your jerky on. For more info, go to wilhaukbeefjerky.com.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.